we're taught to give our power away. We're taught to conform. We're taught to obey. But really, the moment we're born, we're actually perfect. We're starting to wake up to the power that lies within us. Everything is exactly the way it's meant to be and designed to be. We're actually designed to do the things that light us up. Once we shift into that place, then not only do we have a ton more energy, but we also create a completely different reality. We are all uniquely designed to lead in our own specific way. You're absolutely here to be unapologetically yourself, because there are people on the planet that need you specifically to inspire them into action. Human beings in this 3D reality, we see the world as we are, not as it is. Every single human is projecting their perception of life onto the rest of the world. Even if you don't want to learn anything else about your human design, these are going to be game changers. I was a successful corporate, executive coach. I'd already transitioned out of the advertising industry. I'd healed my mental health from depression and panic disorder, and like my whole life had kind of changed. And when human design turned up, I was like, yeah, nah, this is way too woo-woo. Like, where's the research? Where's the hard evidence? Because I'd spent so many years like deep in neuroscience and quantum physics and human behavior and all of these things, even though my spiritual side has been well and truly alive and well since I was tiny. Taking that to my CEOs and GMs, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. So at first I kind of went, it's really the language is negative, the research isn't there, and I kept putting it down until I got to this point in my life where I had transformed so much, as I said, like career, relationships. We'd moved to Sydney, like all of these things had transformed, and I still felt like there was something missing. I felt it it was visceral. It was within me. It was this hole almost in my heart space. And I just sort of said to the universe, I'm like, okay, dude, we need to sort this stuff out. Like, I've come so far. I've, completely transformed my life. I've healed my mental health. Like, I've done some epic things. Why do I still feel this way? And part of that serious discussion with the universe, there was also, can you please just show me? Like, treat me like I am completely oblivious. Like, I have no idea. Like, you need to smack me in the face with this thing. And moments almost after I had set that intention, that declaration to the universe, human design just started showing up in my life. And this is way before it was popular. Like, everyone's freaking talking about it now, but back then, no one was talking about it. It was not a thing yet. And because I'd made this, commitment to the universe, and I'd asked this question, I was like, all right, universe, I'll start experimenting with it. I'll give it a go. So I started to slowly integrate it into my life. And of course, what happened really quickly, which is the nature of the beast that is Emma, is that once I commit to something, things happen at light speed. And things shifted in my life so quickly. That hole was just like filled up. And because I'd made this promise to the universe, I'd made this promise to myself that I would continue the human design experiment, I also introduced it with my corporate clients. And I remember asking the first time for my clients' birth details. And let's be very clear, this guy was, the CEO of a medium-sized business with ran a big team, very masculine, liked to race cars on the weekends. And I was really like, God, he's going to think I'm woo-woo. He's going to think I'm this. I'm going to think I'm that. And from that moment, not only did he not even, flinch that I was asking this information, what I saw was the shift from getting my clients excellent results to extraordinary results, because I was finally seeing the truth of who they were and empowering them to step into that. So, they would change the way their leadership style, they would change their decision-making style, they would align to all of these pieces, and the transformation in all areas of their life was just epic. And I was having exactly the same experience in my life. So there were the results. That was the research that I needed. And now years and years later, I've got thousands of people, thousands of examples of how powerful this incredible wisdom of human design is.
So what is this incredible wisdom of human design? And also, you alluded to it a little bit in there, but your vision for it, because it is kind of, at first glance, it does come across as a bit woo, but
Yeah.
your vision for it is to integrate it. I should shut up and let you answer the question.
No, but you can go for it. My manifestor friend. Super fun. Give me something to respond to.
Yeah, you go for it. You go for it. What is your
So
human design and your vision for it?
yeah, so it definitely plays these days in the esoteric space, in the spiritual space. And a lot of the teachers are either very attached to the original knowledge that was only channeled in 1988, so it's still relatively new. If you think of something like astrology, which is a part of human design, like it's mathematically mapped together with three other wisdoms. That's been around for millennia. Like it's a very, very old science,
What
astrology.
are those three other wisdoms?
So we've got the Hindu chakra system. We've got the Kabbalah tree of life. And we've also got the I Ching, which is the Chinese book of changes. And these four wisdoms are basically mapped together to create what we call in human design a body graph. And what this body graph represents is your like energetic blueprint. So the human that you came in here to be, the themes, the lessons, the superpowers, the purpose, how you're designed to make decisions, how you're designed to be led by God, universe, source, whatever you want to call that. So it really is the treasure map energetically of what lies within you.
And for the large part, I feel like the way when I feel into your languaging around the human design as well, it's much more profile. It's much more like, why is this any different to Myers-Briggs? Like, why is this any
Yeah.
different to the disc profile? Can you speak to a little bit
Yeah.
around your vision for what the future of potentially where human design could end up?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question because I think it alludes to the reason why I kept putting human design down in the first place, because it kind of danced around in this spiritual zone, if you like. And my vision for human design, like one of our primary goals, is to take human design mainstream. And the reason why is because of its level of specificity. When we look at something like Myers Briggs or the disc profiling or Enneagram, which is really big right now, what we're doing is we are answering a bunch of questions about who we think we are. Okay. Now, if you are lucky enough to be in a room with a facilitator like me that's really good at getting you into your subconscious mind, then those tools are going to be pretty accurate, right? However, you're still answering those questions from the mind, from who you think you are, as
Subject
opposed.
to how much caffeine you've had, subject to how much
Exactly.
sleep you've had, subject to, sorry, I won't interrupt.
But yeah, exactly, right? And whatever else is going on in your life and who you think you are in that moment. For example, like whenever I do the Myers-Briggs profile, some days I'm an introvert, some days I'm an extrovert. Okay. And at being a behavioral coach myself, like I know that I'm an introvert because how we decide whether we're introverted or extroverted is how we get our energy back. So on a
Hmm.
Friday night, the last thing I want to do is be around people. I want to be on my own or with my family, chilling out, recharging my batteries. Whereas an extrovert is out partying with their friends or having dinner with their friends or whatever, because that's how they recharge their energy. So with human design, this is not, we don't go via the mind. We don't go via the behavior, the identity, who we think we are. We actually go straight to a moment in time. And that moment in time where you are most heavily imprinted. Now, what that means is that moment in time is actually your birth and approximately 3 months before you were born. Okay. Um, and these are moments in time where you are imprinted by these really cool things called neutrinos. They're subatomic particles. And these subatomic particles, which are, there's billions of dollars being spent on researching these little dudes right now because they're one of the smallest particles in the universe, and they move through matter. Okay. And as they move through things, they pick up pieces of the things that they move through. So we take this reading at the time when you're born, and from that reading, we literally get the map of the stars. And this is how astrology is done as well, that is imprinted into you at that moment. So what happens is that you then get this very unique, right down to the second that you were born, blueprint imprinted into you. And then you then go out into the world. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't be conditioned by society, people, parents, school, the media, all of these things. You would just be left to fully express that blueprint in your most authentic self. However, that's not how the human brain works. Between 0 to 7, we have no filters. We have no ability to say that's right, wrong, good, or bad. We can't analyze. So we just believe it's all true. It all goes in. It becomes our conditioning. And then that becomes the adult we grow up to be. Now, with human design, we then start to go down that rabbit hole of understanding who we are at our energetic core and our most authentic place. And we start to become conscious of the unconscious. And the unconscious is all the decisions we've made to be loved, to be accepted, to be nurtured, instead of feeling safe to be our most authentic self. So it's this method, if you like, or this powerful tool to bring us home to our most authentic self.
Because that was going to be one of my questions today around our innate self, which is what our human design is kind of speaking to, versus all of the noise that sort of drops in. It's such a, and as a coach, oftentimes I'm sort of, I'm in awe of people's journey. And maybe we're going to have a chat about my chart a little bit later, and maybe you can tell me more about where this comes from. But nonetheless, it's like, just obviously we were this innate self and we had so much going for us, and we still do. But then it's almost like, we there's all this external noise and conditioning, but then also some part of that is necessary for us to even reclaim our gifts as well. It's just such like a well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be human is to be just the most fascinating. I can't even, like we are so innately powerful. Okay. And when we are born into this life, we have everything we need. Yet the first thing we do is give our authority away to everything else, thinking that, we are then taught by society, by school, even by our parents, that something outside of us knows better than we do about us. We're taught to give our power away. We're taught to conform. We're taught to obey. We're taught to do all of these things. We're really, the moment we're born, we're actually perfect. We know that we don't need any of those things. So why would that even happen? Why would we be that way? And in my opinion, my belief system says that, that higher part of us, that bigger part of us, some people call it the soul, some people call it the higher self, it's that part of us that has been around for millennia, forever, that part of us that will never disappear even when we die, that is here to learn the lessons. It's here to have the human experiences. And that really is that piece of us that I believe that we're constantly, almost from the time we're born, we are constantly trying to get back to that whole part of ourselves, that part of ourselves that sees that we are absolutely perfect in our imperfect beauty. Everything is exactly the way it's meant to be and designed to be. But the journey to get there, like that sounds simple, but it's not easy to get there.
Hey there guys, Emma is a complete master at human design, and we're about to dive in even deeper, but just for a quick sec, if I can invite you to hit subscribe to the channel. It helps with everything that's going on around here. The entire channel is powered and empowered by your subscription to the Inspired Evolution. So please take a moment and thank you so much in advance for hitting subscribe. Back to the episode. So we have 16 different Myers-Briggs things. We have 9 different Enneagram things going on. We have, and then 4 different disc profiles, and we could just keep going and going and going. And tell us a little bit about human design and the 5 main types, and a little bit about each of the types there.
Yeah, cool. So with human design, we start with a type. And again, this is kind of like a jumping off point. So when we look at the other profiling tools, it's kind of like you're just grouped into these groups, and these are the traits that you'll have as a part of that group. And if you have something like Myers-Briggs, then you've kind of got 4 groups, and then they're kind of mixed and matched in different ways. With human design, we kind of start with the macro, which is type. And then we just go like a funnel, we get deeper and deeper and deeper and more specific and more specific and more specific. So it's actually more of instead of a process of grouping us all together, it's a process of taking off all the layers. Now, the first port of call is type, okay? And there's technically 4 types, but I'm going to tell you there's 5 types because there's a hybrid. And these types, they give us our fundamental energy, okay? So how our energy is actually designed to be in the world, to do the work we're here to do. It's like the overarching theme. I like to sometimes call it like the container of our purpose. It's this overarching theme of what you're here to be and do.
Soul's purpose.
Well, in human design, like we actually look at one side of our chart, which is the design side or the unconscious side of our chart. We call that our soul's purpose. That's the vehicle that we're kind of driving around in. But from a type point of view, it's actually our aura. Okay, so our aura is this energetic torus field kind of thing that is about 6 feet around us, that literally is bumping into all these different people. Everyone we come across, whether we're in person or even here talking to you over the internet, like our auras are talking to each other. So type is all about that aura and how your energy within that aura is designed to work. So the first type is manifestors, like you. Now, a manifestor, they're about 10% of the global population, and they are here to inspire us into action, okay? They're the people on
the
podcast
planet is appropriately named. Sorry.
Yeah, right? I love it.
Perchance. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Exactly.
Shut up, Amrit.
Well, you go for it. No, you go for it. So the manifestors, they're literally here to initiate. So from let's say from a personal development perspective, or anyone who's done any spiritual development, or career development, I should say, what do you learn? You learn that we have to take massive action. We have to get out there and take what we need. We've got to do what we have to do. But actually what human design teaches us is there's only 10% of the global population that are actually designed to initiate, to start something, to ignite the fire. And they are the manifestors. So a manifestor is going to be someone who, the word we use in the original knowledge, which I don't love, but it does the job, is polarizing. So they can be very polarizing. So they can tend to be people that you either like them or they're not your people. Like they just are not.
My YouTube comments concur. So
really? I love that. So good. So good. And the most important thing for manifestors is often as children, they have noticed this big impact they have on people because they have a very big and powerful aura. And they notice that. And if they have some sort of trauma in regards to that, which, we all have trauma, what they will tend to do is they'll turn into people pleasers because they don't want to offend, they don't want to upset, they don't want to disappoint. And if you're a manifestor, then you need to stop it, because you're absolutely here to be unapologetically yourself, because there are people on the planet that need you specifically to inspire them into action. So if you're not being authentically you, then you are not, doing the work that you came to this life to do. I can see you want to say something to that.
Oh, the trauma piece is interesting because I think oftentimes we label traumas as like these big seismic events that happen to us, and yet they can be such like death by 1,000 cuts as well. When you look at something like, don't be big, don't be bold, touch wood, and it's, and you speaking to the pain point of people pleasing, I never really thought it's definitely something I carry. The people pleaser is like is definitely in my shadow. And just touch wood, just hearing you reflected that way. And then I was also hearing the way you said unapologetically you, and then I was thinking back to the introduction of the podcast, which is like a unapologetically you.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of things coalescing in my mind at once.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, you just can't make this stuff up. This is what I love about it. Like, I'm very evidence-based. So I was very conscious in my spiritual journey that, did I really feel that? Did I really see that? Is that really a thing? Like, so human designs really helped me ground a lot of my spirituality because it gives you this real-time feedback, if you like. But one of the things I also wanted to just refer back to what you said about, being too big or being too much, like both the manifestor and the manifesting generator, which I'm a manifesting generator, especially being Australians, it's a big challenge because as a manifesting generator, part of my purpose is to demonstrate human potential. So MGs tend to be these people that they take up a lot of space. They are, very powerful individuals, all of these things. And the challenge is that we feel like or get told we're too much. Same as the manifestors. You're too much. You're too much. And it's absolutely not true. Like, one of the things that I will say to all my manifestors, all my MGs, is yes, you are too much. So find the people that want your too much, because that's your job. That's what you're here to do.
So that's the manifestor. You've touched on a manifesting generator. Is there more in there? Because you mentioned there's 5 types.
I'll talk a bit more to the MG, as I call them, but let's go to the generator next. So between the manifesting generator, which is a hybrid of the generator and the manifestor, both the generator and the manifesting generator are both fall into this generator bucket. Okay. Now that is about, or just over 70% of the global population. So most people on the planet are generators or manifesting generators. Now, if your strategy as a manifestor is to inform, the strategy of the generator and the manifesting generator is to respond, okay? Because within these people, their gut is telling them in every single moment, yes, I have energy for this, or no, I don't. So these are the people who literally, once they are inspired into action, they will build anything and everything that they have energy for. We look at someone like Oprah, for example. She's a generator. Like, so she had so much energy to build her empire. It's endless because she's doing what she loves, what lights her up. So this is the way that generators are designed to be. And if manifestors are a little bit polarizing, the manifesting generators and generators, they tend to be very comfortable to be around. They're the people that feel very magnetic, and especially generators, they just feel really comfy and they feel really good to be around when they're lit up. So their role on the planet is to build whatever it is that lights them up. The manifesting generator, so this hybrid, one of the most important things to understand about them is they are a non-linear being. These are the people that most often will think that they're quitters, they can't stick at anything, they just skip over stuff. And really, that's the way they're designed. Like, this was a big game changer for me because, yes, I'm the one that I'm currently reading 3 books, listening to 4 podcasts. Like everything that I do, I skip bits, I jump over, but I always get what I need. They learn faster, get out quicker. And then what happens is you get to a certain time in your life, we sort of say around 40, and you look back and you see all these, like, what seems like random jobs and roles and things and go, oh my goodness, they all fit together perfectly. Because the manifesting generator is here to build things, but it builds through breaking things, through pulling things apart and putting them back together and finding a better and quicker way. So their strategy is to inform like a manifester and to respond. So that's the biggest group of the global population. Then we go to projectors. So projectors, they're about 14% of the global population. And these people are our guides. These are the people that if we are inspired, we're being inspired into action, we're building things. These are the people that are looking at all of this energy and going, well, if you do a little more of this and a little less of that, if you try this efficiency over here and pick up a bit of this and let go of that, these are the people that can refine things really well. They can see how energy is being used. Is it being used resourcefully? Is it moving things forward? Or is it being used in an unresourceful way? So these are people that really have this great ability to see efficiencies. Now, their role, like projectors are here to be seen and recognized for their wisdom. Now, the challenge is that we don't live, especially in the Western world, we don't live in a society that um, supports little Sally that sits in class and puts her hand up and she knows the answer to everything. We're like, like, shush, give someone else a go, give someone else a go. But really, they're our projectors. Like, don't give someone else a go. Let Sally answer it because she's got the answer. So these are the people that actually they really need to be seen and acknowledged. So in their shadow, what they're going to do is they're going to try and force their wisdom on people. But their strategy is actually to be invited in. And when their wisdom gets invited in, then people literally, I love to use the example of like they will sit at your feet like Yoda. They want to hear everything that you say. They will, really, really, really be drawn to everything that you have to say. So it's waiting for the invitation. Now, the last type is reflectors. Now, reflectors are just 1% of the global population. And these people are literally taking in, amplifying, and reflecting back everything from a one-on-one relationship to a group of people, to a business, to a community, to a city, to a country. They are reflecting back the truth of what is really going on in the world. These people, to navigate through life, it's very much about, their strategy is about taking time. We talk about 28 days, the moon cycle. For them to actually know how something or someone or an environment feels. And if it feels correct for them, then they go in that direction. But if it doesn't, then they have to let it go because they don't want to amplify more of what's not working, if you like. Now, just to round all of these 5 up, one of the big things to understand is that also our type will tell us how much energy we have to do the work that we're here to do. So as a manifestor for you, you're what we call a non-sacral being. And manifestors, I often use the example of, I used to work in advertising. There was a guy in our office that he loved pitches. So he'd come in, he would work, solidly for like 2.5, 3 weeks on a pitch. Like, I don't think the guy even went home. Like, he slept on the couch. He just freaking loved it. And then once he'd pitched for the business, he'd go on holiday for a month. So the manifestor energy is when the creative urge is there, they will go all at it. But then when it's off, they need time out. They cannot work consistently day in, day out in this old corporate model. Now, the generator and the manifesting generator, they are designed, they can fit into the old corporate model. Where they fall down is that if they do too much of the things that they don't love, that don't light them up, they end up doing a thing called functional burnout, meaning that they disconnect from the guidance that is their gut, is their sacral, which is their North Star. Then our projectors, again, another non-sacral being, and these are people that we'll often refer to, like they only can do that old school definition of work, maybe 2 hours a day. I think it's hilarious. My mum, she was in the media, both my parents were in the media industry, and my mum used to sleep under her desk at lunchtime, and people used to think she was weird. And then now I'm like, oh, she's just a projector, like she was just having a projector nap under, like, that's how they roll. They're not designed to work these long days. They're designed to obsess about the things that they love so that they create wisdom. And then with reflectors, it's the same. They don't have this sacral definition. So it's really important that they pay attention to the things that are giving them energy and the things that are not giving them energy, and taking time out to recharge their batteries, because they're just not designed to work, 5 days a week like the generator and manifesting generator.
Hey there, human soul. Quick question. What is your human design type? And have you considered human design? How does this play into your life? What's your awareness around all this sort of stuff? I'd love to hear from you in the comment below. Comment your type below. Back to the episode. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that because, my son is actually a reflector. And the whole way society is constructed. Like, I think one of the early realizations for me where the human design really started to come to me, it was like, I was just, because we talked at the beginning of the podcast, the inspired evolution was birthed so deeply out of career misalignment for me. And just not even a 9 to 5, but a 6 to 6, 6 days of the week, was just like, this is like the cat is being rubbed the wrong way existentially. This is just not right. Something needs to give. And that was the birthplace of the inspired evolution. And that to sort of hear that, as manifestors, and even projectors and reflectors, well, depending on what the reflector's up to, it's, it seems like the capitalistic world is mostly designed with a generator at heart, which actually is not so bad. 70% right is actually, it could do worse.
Well, the catch-22, and so you're absolutely right. And on some level, unconsciously, because, human design wasn't a thing back then, I feel like there has been, in the capitalistic world, then it's been identified that there is this group of people that can just work away. They can just work in the factory. They can just do the job. They can just do those things over and over again without burning out, without ending up with autoimmune disorders and all of these sort of things. But the thing that human design brings to light is that we're actually designed to do the things that light us up. We have to stop saying yes to the things that, like every generator or manifesting generator has at some point said, oh, just let me do it. I'll do it. I can do it quicker, faster, whatever. I can take it. Give it to me. And they don't have boundaries. They just feel obliged because they have the energy to do it, or they can do it. And the shift for the generator is moving from obligation, moving from this place of, well, I should do it because I can, to this place of, well, I'm doing it because I'm lit up. I have all this energy to do it. And once we shift into that place, then not only do we have a ton more energy, but we also create a completely different reality.
I've got a ton more questions, but I think at this juncture, it's important for people that want to go get their charts. Don't leave the episode, but I should ask you, where can people get their charts and their types?
This is a great, and so often this happens on interviews. I'm like, just press pause, go to my website, which is emmadunwoody.com, and get your free chart. Not only do we give you your free chart, but we're going to give you follow up with emails that send you to exactly the right podcast episode for your type and for your authority and for all these other parts of your design, so that you can dive deep into your specific design.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I'll put a link to that directly in the description below. Now, you mentioned some things there already. Authority. There are things that we can go deeper past the type into, I guess, definitions, inner authority, strategies, our not self theme, our Incarnation Cross. There's all sorts of stuff going on in there. You asked me earlier on in the episode kind of what I was most comfortable with, when it comes to human design. And for me, a big two things have been my strategy and my not self, just knowing, obviously my type has been fundamental to know. And, we can discuss more about what some of the things that I've had to learn being in a manifestor were for me. But even just noticing my strategy to inform, and then also my not self have been very helpful. But let's start with one and let's go through them each at a time, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And let's start with not self, because I think that's a really good one. That's it doesn't seem like an intuitively, oh, why would I want to know what my not self is? But once you get it,
oh, it's so good. It's so good. So a lot of teachers out there with human design, they kind of dive into all these different type memes, and if you're this type and you're that, and I avoid all of it because it's not true. There's so much detail below type that is way more important than your type. However, the caveat to that is there are a few really, really important things about your type that, you know, even if you don't want to learn anything else about your human design, these are going to be game changers. So number one is the strategy that I've spoken about for all of them. And the next piece we will talk about is the not self, and on the other side of that, the signature theme. So our not self theme, when we experience our not self theme, which is a feeling, it's an expression, it's an emotion, what that's telling us, it's telling us that we're in the mind. The mind is trying to override the body. We are operating from fear. Okay, so in our language, it's telling us we are misaligned. Then we have our signature theme. Now, our signature theme tells us, same deal, it's something that we're going to feel in our body, and it tells us when we're in alignment. One of the things I love to teach people at the outset is understanding these two themes, how they feel in your body, where they show up in your life, and how you can start to see them as literally the lines on a road. So if you imagine yourself as the person driving down the road, when you feel the not self theme, you're running onto the rumble strip, you know, like you're running off the road. When you feel the signature theme, then you are driving in the correct direction for your destiny, outcome, goal, whatever it is, right? So it's these two feelings within the body that when you get to know them really well, they're gonna navigate you, keep you on the correct path.
I love this metaphor that you're describing about the road, because I've never heard it put that way before, but that is so useful to have, and such a great visual.
Yeah, and the important thing is, I think a lot of people, when they come to human design, they're like, oh, so I have to get rid of the not self. No, you don't need to get rid of anything, but you need to become aware of it. Like the long-term goal is to feel less of the not self and more of the signature theme, sure. But it's actually this really powerful indicator that's always just giving you biofeedback of where you're at. So it's not something to get rid of or fix, but it's something that you do want to, ultimately, when you're in alignment, you're going to feel less of that and more of the signature theme. So let's start with manifestors because, you know, they start everything. And, you know, I always love to just refer quickly, like from a manifestor perspective, like even the guy who channeled all the human design information in, manifestor, like literally the one that sparked the human design stuff. Like this is the power of this stuff. Anyway, so manifestors, the not self theme is anger. So what that means is that on some level, all manifestors have a relationship with anger. And anger is going to show up when the creative urge, when that feeling within you that you just have to do the thing that you want to do right now because you want to do it, when something is interrupting that urge of creativity, then anger will show up. Or maybe when someone expects you to be smaller or pull your head in, or someone tells you what to do, you start to see the anger show up. It's literally that part of you saying, wow, I'm thinking my way through this. I'm operating from fear. Something is out of alignment. Now, your signature theme as a manifestor is peace. Ultimately, all manifestors are looking for mental, physical, and emotional peace. That is what's driving them. So when you feel peace, then you know you're in alignment. Does that resonate with you?
On every level.
Yeah.
Yeah, on every level. The interesting piece also, like, it's almost like I use it as a litmus, like exactly how you described the roads coming, the cars coming off the road. Yeah, just having the awareness of like, oh, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. And,
Yeah.
you know, anger has many different faces as well. And I know frustration is like a whole nother types, not self. So I won't digress into that. But yeah, just carrying the anger piece and just sort of going, and it's so good. Just like, I know not self makes no sense when you first hear it the first time. It's like, oh, not self. But then as you sort of start to settle into your sort of type and, you know, drive your human design buggy around for a little bit, you go, oh yeah, that's not me. Like when the anger shows up, I'm not myself when I'm angry. Oi, come back. You're not centered. That's not your center. You're off on the outskirts of something, which is why I really love that road metaphor. And so that's been incredibly helpful, even in like a conversation. Like you'll be having a discussion with someone, all of a sudden you start to get angry, and you're like, oh, why am I? Oh, hang a sec. There's probably some validity in what they're saying that's triggered something within me that's pulled me off my center. Let's check back in on center. And then it gives me this whole opportunity to pause. So carrying the awareness of when you're angry, you're not yourself and you're playing into a distortion, or you're playing into like, a whole nother story has been, like you said, game changer for myself. Yeah.
And I think the beauty, and I love the way you describe it, is like you haven't demonized it. So a lot of human design people will kind of be like, it's your not self, you need to get rid of it. And you just don't. It's just this cool part of you that says, we're out of alignment, like, and look at whatever happened just before you felt that way. So super powerful. Then we have generators. So generators, their not self theme, as you alluded to, is frustration. And frustration shows up for them whenever they're doing too much, when they're saying yes to things there should be no's. And there's always going to be a level of uniqueness to each individual. So I might say frustration turns up from these things, but it might be different for you. One of the things I love about another thing that I love about human design is it's actually called the science of differentiation. So it's all about finding our differences, our uniqueness, what makes us, different from the next. So with generators, frustration is going to show up when you are out of alignment. Then when you're in alignment, you feel this sense of satisfaction. And it's this sense of like a job well done. This real, I look back, and being a manifesting generator, this is part of mine, and I'll go through the MGs in a minute. But I always remember having this overwhelming feeling of satisfaction after every time we did a quarterly review. When I worked on, one of the accounts that I worked on, we would always do this quarterly review. Clients would come in, it would be a big hoo-ha. And I always felt this amazing feeling after it. I was like, this just sense of I did good, I worked hard, I'm happy with what I did. So this satisfaction is how a generator knows, yep, this is correct for you, this sense of satisfaction. But the frustration, that when that starts to show up, it's because you're saying yes, or you're staying somewhere that isn't correct for you. So pay attention to whatever's going on. So for me at the moment, I'm actually having this experience so much. And because we live in a quantum reality, if I keep feeling frustrated, I'm going to create more events that are going to make me frustrated, right? And so there is this part of me where I'm out of alignment because I have a dressage horse, and where I keep him at the moment is somewhere that the woman who owns the place, I just love her, love her, but I don't love the facility. And every day I go there, I feel such frustration and things don't go my way. But right now, I can't move him. I will move him soon, but I can't move him. And it's almost like I keep shooting myself in the foot. Like things keep happening and I'm like, oh my God, it's because I have to move him. I just have to move him. So it's really getting to know these energies within you, not judging them, but taking the feedback. Okay. So then the manifesting generator, the hybrid, the not self theme is anger and frustration. And now I just want to say something about anger as well. So for all the manifestors, all the MGs, one of the things to understand about anger is that when we look at the scale of consciousness, and I'm pretty sure that your crew probably knows what that is, Dr. David Hawkins created this scale of consciousness, which is really powerful. Anger is the first emotion that initiates action. So if you are a person that experiences a lot of anger, don't beat up on yourself. Like it's the emotion that's going to start the change, because it's the thing that, like in a manifestor, it initiates the change. It's just not getting stuck in the anger, not like staying in the victim part of the anger. So that's MGs. Then we go to projectors. Now, the not self theme for projectors is bitterness. And bitterness comes when they feel like they're not seen and they're not acknowledged and they're not understood and they're not valued. And their signature theme is success. This is an energy that they feel great success, whether it's their own success. And these are people that can very unresourcefully succeed. So they can push themselves so hard to experience success by the old school definition if they don't redefine success for themselves. They must, we all should, in my opinion, redefine what success means for us individually, but especially projectors. Because otherwise they're constantly climbing a hill that's not their hill. So one of the examples I love to use with the projector is Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift literally puts all of her bitterness into her songs, puts them out in the world, and she's done. She's moved on. She's let it go, so, and what has she created from that? Well, great success, because she's doing it in a really resourceful way. She's not getting stuck in it. She's just like, she uses it as creative inspiration and her art, and then moves on. And then we have reflectors. So reflectors' signature theme is surprise. So these are the people that see the potential in all energy. Okay, so when they're in alignment, they're like surprised, like, wow, that's like they lived up to their potential, or that lived up to its potential. But in their not self theme, it's disappointment. It's this feeling of like, they didn't live up to their potential, or that didn't live up to its potential. So they are all about the potential of energy from that not self to that signature theme. So when we even just work with these two pieces, we just find ourselves, on a much more aligned path.
Hi there, guys. I wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce you to my one-to-one coaching. It's something that I deeply love doing. As you can tell, conscious conversation is such a massive part of my life. And having one-to-one, deep, meaningful conversations with people where I get to show up as your brother or as the coach or as your mentor has been such a gift for me personally, and a gift for lots of the people that I have supported on the journey of living a more spiritually empowered, spiritually powered, spiritually aligned life. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's some examples of people all around the world that have experienced profound transformations through this coaching experience.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines. And
he's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing. And Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
In control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him, and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so hopefully that's inspiring your evolution onwards and upwards. And if you are so inspired to evolve, you can book in a one-to-one call with me directly at www.amrit.coach/life. And guys, if I can say so myself, I do think this is something quite special. Most people that I see building things online don't really work with people this deeply, this intimately, one-on-one as things start to grow, just because it is so time intensive. And yet I'm so deeply passionate about the transformation that comes from one-to-one coaching that just isn't available anywhere else. It would be my absolute honor and a pleasure to support your spiritual awakening, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfoldment. It is my life's work. I look forward to seeing you in the call. Back to today's podcast. Yeah, I find that so important to know. And thank you so much for listing all the different designs. One of the things that also comes into play is it called a connection chart, or like can you describe a little bit around a connection chart as well? Because I think sometimes like we go into relationships. I'm a manifestor, my wife's a manifestor, but then I don't think that necessarily means that everything in our life is manifestory. Is that correct? Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, sure. So when our two charts come together, as in two people, we call that a connection chart. So what happens is that once you spend a lot of time in aura with another person, so we start as kids, right, with our parents, then that other person's design is conditioning you. Like it's having an effect on you, and you're taking in behaviors, taking in energy, taking in things from this other person. And in some situations, you're amplifying it and reflecting it back. Now, what would be interesting, and I don't have your wife's details, but if I did, I could see how your two charts come together. And what that might mean is the odds are you're probably not in a manifestor relationship. The relationship itself is probably, mind you, having said that, you have absolutely no activations in the sacral, so it could be a manifested relationship, but in most cases that will become a generator or a manifesting generated, or it has to be a manifesting generated chart, meaning that when you two are together, you will have a lot more consistent energy. I have good friends of mine that one is a mental projector and one is a self-directed projector. So they only have two defined centers each. What that means is that they have no motors, they have no consistent energy. So they're not people that have the energy to be working all the time. However, they're sisters and they work in the same place all the time. And when their two charts come together, they're a single definition manifesting generator, which is what they both, like if you were to guess, you'd think they're MGs. So when two charts come together, they're hugely influential. And for you, even without knowing what your wife's design is, you're an emotional authority. So one of the really, really important things about your relationship is that you need to make decisions, you need to have discussions, all communication has to be done over time. Okay. So often it's important for you to sleep on it. Let's say she's triggered, you're triggered, you start to have an argument. It's really important that you have like a safe word and just go, hey, can we call time out on this so I can sleep on it and come back at 9 o'clock in the morning and have this discussion? Because as an emotional being, that means you have an emotional relationship. And it just means that everything needs to be slowed down. It needs to be done over time. Otherwise, you're not going to make the best decisions or have the most powerful discussions in the moment.
Yeah, I think maybe at this juncture, just to give people a bit of an insight, because I do want to ask so much more about relationships, and there's a lot that the human design can help us discern, and I will come back out of it being Amrit-centric for a little bit, but maybe you can elicit some insights from what you get from reading my chart, just to inspire people onwards and upwards in terms of what's possible for them with their chart.
Yeah, so I think there's so much that we can discern from a human design chart. Now, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I was gonna say let's go.
Okay. But for me specifically, like there are certain areas that I'm really drawn to, and some of those things you're already going to be pretty aware of because you love the gene keys. One of the places that I love to go to first, like I would say it's after looking at your type, your authority, your profile, and I'll come back to profile in a minute. I always want to go to a person's core talent. So in our design, from a human design perspective, it sits on the design side. It's in a gate that we call Mars. And our core talent is actually, it's our core wound that we are born into this life with. And then once we, work with it, we start to integrate it, we acknowledge that it's there, that it's a part of us, we heal through it, it actually becomes our core talent. And it's what we are here to give to the world. It's how we specifically help people in the work that we do. And you actually have the 63, and this is the gate. It's called the gate of doubt. And it's really interesting. I was recently on, I don't know if you know Alex Zek, who does the Way Forward podcast. It's a brilliant podcast. And he has the same core talent. And it's fascinating because everything that he does is he calls out this doesn't work. This pattern does not work. I don't know what the solution is, but I know this is not working. This is incorrect. And that's a large part of what your core talent is, to actually call out what doesn't work, the pattern that actually doesn't work. And you've got it in the line 5. So your core talent is also very much about leadership. And this is where we start to see, for me, very pattern oriented. You're going to be very pattern oriented as well, because you actually, you have a thing called inner vision. And these are people who, I will sometimes even say, like, it's like I see the Matrix. Whether I'm listening to someone speak, or I'm watching something, or learning something, it's like all of a sudden I can see how all these things map back together. This is an outer vision person. They can see all the patterns in the world. Does that feel like it resonates with you?
Yeah, it's actually one of the things outside of just the day-to-day coaching and the podcasting and the public speaking. Even the speaking engagements have recently become more and more around how to lead in this new way of the way that the world is emerging. And I think we're going to ask you more questions about the shifts that are currently going on the planet. But I think we can all agree that there is old paradigms dying and new paradigms coming through. At this particular time, more so than ever before, it feels like, or maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong in your awareness, but so that does resonate. And the inner vision piece is also, it's I think it's just part and parcel, I feel like, with the manifestor. But yeah, definitely, like, there's something that's always present for me, and back to our strategy. Mine's being to inform. Like, one of the things I notice is, like, my staff meetings, they go for like 90 minutes when I think the average person could probably smash them out in 15 and 20. Yeah, but I take my time with them. Especially knowing that if I bring everybody that's especially a generator along on the ride, they've been well informed as to why what's happening is happening, and then they're able to respond in a really proactive way. So me taking the time to slow down, even though sometimes it's not really what I want to do, is actually, pays long-term dividends. And so that also helps me then translate that inner vision into, like, an outwardly sort of achievement is a word that comes to mind, but probably the wrong word. Yeah, touch wood.
Well, it's only the wrong word because your ego is telling you not to use that word. But really, like, you're here to we're all here to achieve things. We're all here to, create this new world. And you actually do have what we call the line numbers. So you've got a lot of line 5. So even though you don't have a line 5 in your profile, I'm going to go to your profile in a minute, that does mean that there is a big theme within your chart of power, of leadership. It's a healer energy. And it is also an energy that's, especially because where it shows up in your chart, it's going to be about the power dynamics, and either you can get sucked into the old school power dynamics and, take power from others, or you can redefine what power means. So anyone who has a line 5 in their profile, like I have a line 5 in my profile, I'm a 3-5. It's really, really important that you take that word power. And this is the same for success. Earlier I was talking about with projectors, and I recommend that everybody does this. It doesn't matter what your design is, and redefine what power means. Because I was asked this question a number of years ago, what does power mean to you? And it was weird because I felt really stumped. And once I answered the question, I looked on this piece of paper and I'm like, oh my God, that is the patriarchal definition of power. That is not the power I want. That's not what I want to create. So for me, power to me is about empowerment. Like, I don't want power over anybody else, but I want sovereignty over me. I want to be empowered and I want to empower other people. So this is also going to be a part of a theme that consistently shows up for you because you have so many line 5s in your design. Does that feel like it resonates?
Yeah, I think I'm always championing the underdog. Maybe that's just the Aussie in me. but then also, it's most of the people that I coach are in very interesting places in the world as well. And this seems to be the question that we're often tumbling around in our coaching sessions and mentoring sessions as well, which is, how do you want to lead? What does it look like? How do you lead your team? Do you come from do leaders eat last, or do you lead by example? It's a whole bunch of, these are the type of things that we're consistently unpacking, and even how people lead themselves. It can be such a dance and a dynamic, but it's interesting. If I get more vulnerable in terms of power as well, I don't think it's something that I've actually defined for myself. I do believe in empowerment as well, significantly, and I think personal power is something that the Inspired Evolution is really here to champion. And that phrase, personal power, really, I can feel is means a lot to me.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's going back to leadership, right? And talking about leadership, I was a leadership coach, and one of the things that I love about human design is it shows us that we are all uniquely designed to lead in our own specific way. There is a part of me, I'm a line 5 in my profile, so I am designed to be the leader, the figurehead leader. Whereas let's talk about your profile, because there is this dance within your design of being like the initiator out the front, the power dynamics, but there's this other part of you that's like, hold on a second. Your 2-4 profile, what that tells us is that you're most comfortable leading from within. Okay, what does that mean? Most times when you talk to a line 4 and you talk about leadership, they'll go, I don't really want to be the leader. And then you talk to them a bit more and they almost all say the same thing. That is, well, I just want to share with my people and let's all rise together. And that is ultimately how the line 4 leads. They don't want to be the figurehead. They don't want to be out the front. They don't want to be the authority, but they want everyone. They're like, I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to tell you everything and let's rise together. So this clearly resonates, right?
Have you met the podcast? Yeah, that's totally the vibe. I totally resonate. Yeah.
And that's always going to be the thing for you is, although the power dynamic is going to be a theme that shows up in your life, for you, leadership is all about influencing your people. And as a 2-4 profile, the line 2 is, it's called the Hermit, but really I like to think of it as the gifted child. So if you have a line 2, then you are actually a person who's naturally talented at things, okay? You will naturally be good at the things that you're actually here to do on the planet. And I'm a line 3, I have a line 2 son, and it's so frustrating because this kid can just, a line 2 doesn't like being told what to do. It doesn't want to learn from authority. It wants to learn from its peers. It wants to do its own thing. And my son, who's a 2-4, he loves music. So for many years he had flute lessons, then he had guitar lessons, he had all these bloody lessons, and it never went anywhere, right? Until he says to me one day, he's like, Mum, I want to play the piano. I'm like, all right, well, let's sell everything else and let's get you a keyboard.
Here we go again.
Yeah, right? And I said to him, how do you want to learn? And he's like, well, there's this app, Mum. And I'm like, okay, I'll get you the app. So this kid who didn't really take to anything else in the past by going to the old paradigm of go to the music teacher, go home, do practice in between, go back to the music teacher, did not stick, didn't want to do it, not interested, blah. I get him a piano and he literally teaches himself the theme to Harry Potter with no music, no nothing. He just works that shit out. And that's what a line 2 does. They're like, don't tell me how to do it. Don't tell me how I should do it. I'm going to work it out. And when they're left to follow their own natural talents, the things that, in your case, what you like, that creativity just has to initiate, or in his case, the thing that just lights him up, then it comes really easily to you. Does that feel like it resonates?
Yeah, I mean, there's been this whole thing around public speaking, and the more and more I speak to people and they're like, oh, you've got the voice for a podcast and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, lucky I've got a podcast. I think also you called it out earlier. It's like in Australia, it's hard, like in the culture that we live in, to really acknowledge your gifts for what they are, right? Like this tall poppy syndrome thing. But yeah, I feel very blessed, touch wood, that I love to talk, and that, the podcasting as a medium exists right now, and that deep, profound conversation is really what lights me up, and that coaching as a medium exists, and it's going even more, like, is growing day by day around the world, not just my practice, but as an industry, it's growing. And even, public speaking as an industry is growing as well, despite what happened with COVID. And I'm just looking around going, well, this is kind of, touch wood. I feel really like it's very handy. So yeah, it's, and
is it
and then
handy, or is that just really the way we're meant to live our lives?
Well, it's interesting that, isn't it? It's interesting because I do think most people are meant to live in alignment, and that's, the whole community around the inspired evolution. It's like spiritually aligned living, and I think that's where so much of this work really speaks into, because a big part of the work that I help people do is find alignment through, like, discover your values. Like, once you know your values, you really know who you are. But I think human design also offers you this really incredible lens, and the interesting about the lens that it affords you is, like, the deeper you scratch, the more, like, you just elicit, and it almost seems like a bottomless pit in many ways, about the insights that it can give you. It does take a minute to wrap your head around, but I think, a long response to your question is, absolutely. I think everybody's meant to be aligned, and I think that's, and that's, when you spoke back to, like, the inner core wound, it's like the doubt. It's like such a big piece of doubt that just kind of goes, why don't, like, and you speaks to the power, I guess, dynamics as well. It's like, why is everybody living out of alignment? Why does it have to be this way? Like, surely not. Like, surely we're all, like, able to live our most aligned design, our most value aligned life. Like, and if that requires us bucking some things, then let's get to bucking.
Bring it on, I say.
Yeah.
I think like the whole, we are in this moment in time where we're starting to wake up to the power that lies within us. And one of the things I love, just coming back to the values piece and how I love human design, is because it gives us the language to what we feel on the inside. And oftentimes when we look at our life or our work through this frame of human design, then we focus on completely different things. And let me give you an example. So, and I'll then map it back to your design. So for me specifically, one of the biggest themes in my design is family and community. Family, community, friendship. Now, I would never have thought that that was going to be a part of my brand, or how people experience me, or how I grow a, 7-figure business. Like, I never thought that would be the thing that if I focus on, I create success by my definition. But what human design has given me is this frame of, oh my God, like that is who I am. Like, I am literally that person that everybody meets and they're like, oh my God, I feel like we've been friends forever. I'm also the sort of person that you tend to, if you become friends with me, that's it. We're friends forever. And the communities that I build, and I don't do anything, are extraordinary. Every single container we bring together, people are like, how did you bring all these people together? And I'm like, dude, I didn't do anything other than be me. I just follow my strategy and authority. It's how I've created success in my business. It's how I've created success in every area of my life. I just follow my design. And, if we go this old school road, for me, the whole values piece, and I was trained in values. We did a lot of this values work. It just confused me. Like, I was confused. I was like, is it this? Is it that? I don't know. And for years, I couldn't quite work that piece out. But then when I had human design, I'm like, oh, okay. So family isn't just my children and my partner and my extended family. Family is the communities I build around me. Okay, now I get it. So what human design really helps us do is like break the old definitions and start to really language what we feel on the inside. So let me give you an example. So a large part of and through the frame of the gene key, so you might already know this, in your activation sequence, we call it the Incarnation Cross, your personality sun, it's a gate, it's called the gate of conflict. So what this gate does is that it initiates conflict to create intimacy. So your biggest energy in its shadow is basically going to pick fights, and it's picking fights because it feels disconnected. Now, that is not something that you would go, well, how do I build a whole brand around that? And when we bring the gene keys in, what do we discover? Well, we discover that conflict is the shadow. Then diplomacy is the gift. And then peace, oh, wow, there's that word again, is the enlightened, the acidic state. So what does that mean? Wow, well, that actually means a large part of your brand is all about moving from conflict to diplomacy. Well, that's something that, that's putting language to hopefully the way you feel on the inside. Yeah, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, through the gene keys, I've had to contemplate that sphere quite a bit because it is my life's work in the gene keys. And the way I've found it to be is like people show up to the inspired evolution potentially conflicted, and that they're hoping to find, and like my role is, diplomatically sort of, left brain, right brain. I see myself doing that a lot, like engineer turned spiritual life coach. Like what is going on there? And the diplomacy between like, yeah, that's your left and that's your right and that's your head and that's your heart. And it's totally fine. Like these are just cardinal directions on one compass, which is you, it's all you. Like, let's go. And, they're in that, like it's all me, it's all good. And I can choose and I've got sovereignty and I've got, personal power. And it's like, okay, cool. Here I land, and there's that piece that comes from knowing your truth, which goes back to, I guess, my core wounding, right? Which is that, you mentioned doubt before, and that leads all the way up to the siddhi of that being truth. And so people coming back to that truth that we are peace seems to be, this thing that it's driving the motor that is Amrit Touchwood to some degree.
Yeah. I love that. And, I think that the power of this for me is also putting everyone else, like putting people in the driver's seat of their own life, of who they are, of how they feel, of what they want to do in the world. Instead of us trying to shove ourselves into someone else's model or someone else's strategy or, like every second person out there doing personal development, running someone's strategy and going, oh my God, it didn't work, so I've done something wrong.
Well,
whereas with human...
Yeah, sorry. Just the other thing about that also is like when I found out that peace was like the centerpiece of my life's work, like this sounds super like, but like finally like this sense of peace arrived. Like it was like, of course. And like there was this real resistance initially because it's like Miss America pageant, kind of like, and world peace.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And I was like, oh shit, but that really is what the inspired evolution's about. It's like, and so I was like in this little real conundrum. It's like, sounds really cheesy, Amrit, but it kind of really is what you're here to do. So, with what not what you're here to do, but what the inspired evolution is here to champion is the way that I like to articulate it.
Yeah.
And it is, it gives you so much permission. I think that's why I butted in, because initially we can be so resistant, like walking around, it's like, what is the slogan of the brand? What is the motto? What is it that it's really here to do? Is it this or is it that? And you have so many inspirations in around the inspired evolution. As coaches, as entrepreneurs, we have so many mentors and they're all right. We see bits of ourselves in all of them. Am I more this person? Am I more that person? And it's like, it can be so therapeutic to just know your cardinal direction. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. No, please. You can jump in at any time, my manifestor friend. But I love it. And I love what you said. Like the other thing to say is like, just watching yourself like in the past, sharing the story where you even judged yourself for this piece, like, no, actually that is because I have the 6 in some really primary places in my chart. And I'm the same. I'm like, I genuinely just want everyone to get along. You know, this is my 37, this is my 6. I've got the 36, you've got the 36 in your personality earth. Like, I just want everyone to get along. I want everyone to be equal. I want everyone to be, taking care of each other. And at the end of the day, when we see this in real time, it's not that we think our way there, it's that we feel our way there. Like, when we learn this stuff, when we dive into our design or our gene keys, what happens is that we feel a resonance. When we feel a resonance, what's happening? It's our cells in our body, it's our biofeedback going, yeah, that feels true. And when we can trust that, then we're trusting ourselves. We learn to trust ourselves over all the bloody noise, all the distraction out there.
Hi there, guys. I wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce you to my one-to-one coaching. It's something that I deeply love doing. As you can tell, conscious conversation is such a massive part of my life. And having one-to-one, deep, meaningful conversations with people where I get to show up as your brother or as the coach or as your mentor has been such a gift for me personally, and a gift for lots of the people that I have supported on the journey of living a more spiritually empowered, spiritually powered, spiritually aligned life. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's some examples of people all around the world that have experienced profound transformations through this coaching experience.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines.
He's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing, and Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
In control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so hopefully that's inspiring your evolution onwards and upwards. And if you are so inspired to evolve, you can book in a one-to-one call with me directly at www.amrit.coach/life. And guys, if I can say so myself, I do think this is something quite special. Most people that I see building things online don't really work with people this deeply, this intimately, one-on-one as things start to grow, just because it is so time intensive. And yet I'm so deeply passionate about the transformation that comes from one-to-one coaching that just isn't available anywhere else. It would be my absolute honor and a pleasure to support your spiritual awakening, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfoldment. It is my life's work. I look forward to seeing you in the call. Back to today's podcast. As we're talking about the self and the other, I'm going to tuck this back into relationships a little bit, because you said this thing which, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, that is truth. Don't treat everyone as we want to be treated, but treat everyone as they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And that just felt like so many pennies started to drop. How does human design help us in relationships?
Yeah, I love this. So I was referring to the golden rule. And the golden rule is to love thy neighbor. Treat thy neighbor as you would treat yourself. And with human design, I feel like we need to break the golden rule, even though it's like one of the original rules ever written, because we actually want to learn how to treat others as they want to be treated. So when we're in relationship, how does human design shift that? Well, when we know someone else's design, then we can treat them so differently. Let me give you an example. So my ex-husband, he's a projector and I'm a manifesting generator. So before human design, I was always like, my God, every long drive we go on, I'm like, dude, why do you need to sleep every 5 minutes? Like, for God's sake, just drive. Or, I would get really into something with my business and I could just work and dive in, and he just didn't have the same staying power. And I'm like, dude, come on. And then the moment I started to understand that he was a projector, I was like, okay, hang on a second. He needs to be invited in. So that was a big thing. B, I need to be informing him, and he needs to be informing me as a manifesting generator. And all of a sudden we start to see like, okay, this is the way he frames his world. This is the way I frame my world. And we see the other as they are designed to be seen, as opposed to the way we want to see them. And because the important thing to understand is human beings in this 3D reality with a brain, we see the world as we are, not as it is. Okay. So we live, this whole word reality. There is no such thing or reality or 8 billion plus versions of reality. There is no one way to see things, and every single human is projecting their perception of life onto the rest of the world. So with our human design, we can take that almost like unconscious ignorance away and replace it with informed intelligence about others. So another place that this is a game changer is with kids, like raising children in alignment with their designs. Like I have these 2 children that I constantly get this feedback, except for their grandparents who think I'm crazy. But especially my eldest, he's just turned 17. And everyone's like, what is the deal with your son? Like the things that come out of his mouth. He's so empowered, and any room he gets into, he's asking lots of questions, and he's, he trusts himself implicitly. And if you ask him a question, like if a teacher asks him a question, you better really want the answer, because you're going to get it. Like he's not going to hold back. And it's because he's always been raised to trust his gut. As a manifesting generator himself, like, yes, you have energy for something. No, you don't. He's been taught that his voice is powerful. So MG, manifestor, our voice is part of the superpower that we have on the planet. And, both my kids have been parented in a way that I have not overridden their authority, and both of them are sacral beings. So if their gut says no, then even though my ego in the background's going, what do you mean? No, you have to, whatever. I have maintained the boundary of their gut. And if they say it's a no, or if they say it's a yes, then I'm just going to run with it. And what that's doing is, for one, I'm raising men. I'm not raising large boys. I'm raising men who want to lead. They want to be in their masculine. They want to hold space for every other human. They feel whole in themselves, as opposed to, being a man or a woman these days is hard and confusing, and second guessing ourselves all the time of how should we behave with the opposite sex, this, that, and the other. Whereas I feel like with my kids, they're very confident in who they are, and it's because for the last 6-7 years, I've been very aware of their design. And it's not like I've taught them their design. It's not like I've said, this is who you are. But as a parent, I have chosen to treat them in a way that they are energetically designed. So the way I ask them questions, they're both sacral beings. I ask them yes, no questions, not big open-ended questions, yes, no questions, so their sacral can respond. I inform them, they're both MGs and I'm an MG. I've taught them about my emotional authority, that although they make decisions, boom, in the moment with clarity, I don't. So they know to give me time to make decisions. So when we start to interact with each other with an understanding of each other's design, then we create so much more harmony and peace and balance and all of these beautiful things, because we don't expect others to be as we are. We allow them to be as they are.
Emma, for those that want to find out more about your work, how do they come find you?
Well, you can find me on the Human Design podcast, which is, one of my favorite places on the planet to hang out. Their website, which is emmadunwoody.com, or you can find me over on Instagram as the Human Design Coach. And we've got so many exciting things going on at the moment. I'm just about to launch my book and everything. So really cool stuff going on in human design in my world right now.
Absolutely. And we'll put links to all of that in the show notes below and the description below. And also when the book comes out, you will find it in the description below. We'll backdate and put that all in there. Can we use human design to discern kind of things that are going on in the world? Like you said, it's very person-centric. It's almost like it's the science of the individual's aura, right, in many ways. And yet we see some big things going on in the world now. I've seen some people do human designs of countries and, do human designs of, is there a certain, do we ever look back and sort of say, hey, what's going on in the world? Can that ever be discerned by human design?
Hugely. Just like astrology, human design can be looked at through the frame of what we call the transits. So as all the celestial bodies are moving through the universe, we can have a look how they are influencing our specific design, how they're influencing the planet. And one of the other really big global ways that we can look at it, and it's interesting actually that you say this, because you've just reminded me that I want to look up the design for my book. It's just about to launch. I'm like, well, I want to look at its design. Like, what is it? What's the energy that's birthed into the world? So we can look at that. And we also can look at our cats, our dogs, our horses. So you can look up their specific design and see how their energy contributes to our energy. So I mentioned earlier, I have a dressage horse, and I've had horses since I was tiny. I've been a competitive dressage rider most of my life and ridden hundreds of horses. And this horse I've never felt so safe on. I've never felt so comfortable and so happy. Like, this is my dream horse. And when I did his design, because luckily I bought him from the breeder, so she knew when he was born, what time he was born. When you put our design together, he actually gives me definition in the spleen. Now, the spleen is one of the centers that governs fear. So if it's undefined, like it is for me, it means that I take in and amplify everybody else's fear. So I've always had this low-grade fear. Even though I've been very good and I've had a lot of success, I've always had this low-grade fear around horses. But with this particular horse, no fear, because his design works with my design. So, but going back to the bigger things in the world, I think the one thing that is really fascinating at the moment is we're talking about, from a human design perspective, the new paradigm. Now, it doesn't actually matter which frame you look at this through, because there are so many different ancient texts or modern methodologies that are talking about this time, somewhere between 2025 and 2030. In human design, we talk about 2027. And we shift from this governing energy. We've been in this governing energy of the cross of planning. Now, the cross of planning has given us the energy to master tools and knowledge and information so that we can expand the human race. We can expand our lifespan. And it's all been kind of happening from a tribal man, woman, tribe. It's been built off the back of that. Now, in 2027, we shift into this new cross, which is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And the thing that I love, my eldest son is a sleeping phoenix, and literally he was born, and it was this pivotal moment where my mental health started to really shift and change. So he didn't have to do anything but be born. And that energy of the sleeping phoenix helped me to start to rise from the ashes. Just as a cool aside, the Incarnation Cross of my second son, he's a cross of the Sphinx, which is all about taking a new direction. He was born 3 months later. I opened the doors to my first business. So I officially, this is how these things work. Like, you don't have to do anything. It's just the energy that's going on within you. Now, in 2027, we move into this new paradigm. Now, this new paradigm, we are shifting from the tribe to the individual. We are really, really seeing this time now where the old things that have got us this far are really falling apart. So the corporate world, even like wellness, food, agriculture, like all of this big industry that's had a lot of success is falling apart right now because it could only get us so far. As we move into this new paradigm, we're moving into this new world that the background energy is going to be about rising from the ashes. It's going to be about individuality. It's going to be about striving for freedom, sovereignty, It's redefining intimacy. In my opinion, it's a large reason why we're seeing the lines blurring when it comes to sexuality now, because we're moving from man, woman, baby to intimacy. Like, what is real deep intimacy and love between two people? So that, that's completely shifting and changing. And then we're moving into this time of empowerment, really about understanding what lies within us, what are we actually capable of. It's called power of the great, and also presence. We're moving out of the thinking mind that keeps us unplugged from source, God, universe, whatever you call it, and into this time where one of the governing energies is about bringing us to this present moment. And through this governing energy, the more of us that can raise our consciousness, the way the world looks on that end, on that, the potential is that's a world where AI is covering all the jobs that we don't want to do. We have all these different things that we want to do. We're filling our days with these things that we love. We fill our cups up first and they overflow and we just want to give to everybody else. And it's a completely different world from what we know now. So as we move through the messy middle, I mean, you know what transformation's like. It's always messy in the middle. We're right on track, exactly where we need to be. So as long as we focus on the potential greatness that we can step into, then I really, really believe that there is an incredible opportunity for us the other side of the chaos that we're currently experiencing.
Emma. Thank you so much for sharing yourself so abundantly here with us today. The insights and I highly encourage everybody, at the very least, please go get your human design. And then thank you so much for going through my chart with me today here. It's completely invaluable. There is so many resources, and the Human Design Podcast, the way you've laid things out is super intuitive as well, and great conversations with yourself as well. So thank you so much for I'm trying to find the words, as you can tell there. Can't manifest him. Sister Bear, thank you so much. And again, today's conversation stands on the shoulders of really just, your entire life's work. And so just honoring and acknowledging you for who you really are. And thank you for today's conversation, but thank you for you.
Thank you. It's, I appreciate it. I have crawled on my hands and knees for a lot of the years. It's not always been easy, but I'm grateful for every moment. So thank you so much for having me.
An absolute pleasure.
The biggest thing to understand when it comes to defined and undefined centers, so without complicating it, when we look at our chart, the colored in centers, this is a consistent, reliable energy that it's who we feel we are. It's how we influence the world. It's how people see us and experience us. In our undefined centers, it's how we take in the world. So it's where we take in other people's energy, we amplify it, we reflect it back. Now, when we are in the mind, when we are heavily conditioned, we think those energies that we feel from other people are us. So we create an identity around that. We try to fix it, change it, whatever, but there's nothing, it's not there. It doesn't exist. It's just the conditioning that we've created to try to avoid feeling the feelings that actually aren't our feelings. So one of the big things, I actually have an episode on the podcast, which is number 95, that takes you through every single center, whether it's defined or undefined, and how to decondition it, and how to and it's a practice that I encourage people, especially in the beginning, to do once a quarter. But you want to get to this place where you can define the difference between your energy and somebody else's. So that's something for you to understand. Like, you're wide open in the will center and in the sacral center, and you only have one activation in the root center. So what that means is when you're in aura with someone else, or even with me, right? You're on some level, you are taking in my sacral energy and amplifying it. So my sacral energy feels like it's very powerful. It's the channel, the most powerful channel in the design. It's very charismatic. It's very empowering. So when you're in aura with me, like, they're the things that you feel. When I go away, that energy goes away. And you're like, wow, I get to piggyback off the back of that. I get to enjoy it. I get to use it for the time that we're in aura together. And then when I go away, it's gone. Now, resourcefully, you go, cool, I just borrowed it, we moved on. But unresourcefully, what happens is that people either try to hold on to that, like, oh, I want that back, and they try and force themselves to be that way, do that thing, or they are raised in a family where they're so conditioned by that energy that they build an identity around that energy. And it often happens for non-emotional beings. So you're an emotional being, but for non-emotional beings, and both my kids are non-emotional, so I've been very conscious of, as I've raised them, when I feel big emotions, just to let them know that's my emotion you're feeling, not yours, it's mine. So they now know when they feel really uncomfortable, big emotions, or really high emotions even, that the odds are they're not actually their emotions. So they can enjoy them or walk away from them. And I remember one time having this great example, this is a number of years ago, where I'd had an awful situation with my mother and I was really upset. And so both my kids are amplifying this energy. And what happened was, like, my eldest, he came to me, he hugged me, he was like, Mom, it'll all be okay, because he was really comfortable being in my energy because he knew it wasn't his and there was nothing for him to do about it. Whereas my little guy was like, I love you, Mum, I'm out, like, because it felt so uncomfortable for him. But again, he knew that was okay because it wasn't his energy. So we want to make sure that we get really clear on what is ours and what is someone else's. And there's a lot of methods that you can do to do that, like body scanning, like just really taking a few moments before you go in aura with anyone to feel how you feel as you in this moment right now, and then noticing how that shifts and changes as people come and go from your aura.
You've made it through to the end of another episode. Now, if you love this conversation on the human design, you're going to love the conversations around the Gene Keys. We've had the founder of the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, on several times. We've also had some really great luminaries from the Gene Keys on. Episodes to dive deeper will be on screen shortly, but just before they do appear, I'll invite you to please humbly subscribe to the Inspired Evolution podcast here. Hopefully you're a fan of what we're doing and what we're creating. The entire channel is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. So please do take a moment to hit subscribe. It makes all the difference in the world. And without too much further ado, an episode for you to continue your journey further. Stay inspired, keep evolving. I'll see you in the next one.